Hello, hello. JJ DiGeronimo here with Together We Seek podcast. As you know, I love meeting new practitioners, healers that use ancient wisdom to really help us dive deep into who we are, why we're here, and the work that we are here to share. And Danielle Pashko is no different. I am so excited to share her work, her journey with you. And Danielle, I'm thrilled you are here.
I'm happy to be here too. Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about harnessing the power of Tai Chi and Qigong. But let's start there. What are those things and how do you use them? And then I can't wait to get into your journey.
So, Tai Chi and Qigong are ancient practices that work on moving the energy throughout the body, your qi. And they're unique in that they work on the five elements and different organs that are connected to each element. So, for example, let's say someone maybe has issue with a lot of worry, and you might go to an acupuncturist and you're worrying all the time and it's like constant anxiety, and they say you have spleen qi deficiency. Well, if you're working on, let's say, the earth element, which is stomach and spleen, that can help to work on that area of anxiety. For example, maybe you have an issue with the liver, which is, maybe detoxification or a lot of anger. That's the fire element. So you're doing these specific movements to actually help the imbalance and the blockages and move the energy to the areas that need healing. So both of these practices, Tai Chi can be used as a medicinal practice, but it also is a form of self-defense. So it can be used in two ways. And Qigong is a practice that is usually used for healing, but it's very efficient in terms of moving the energy throughout the body. And that's what we want to do. It's kind of like internal acupuncture.
And so do you think that all of us are holding unnecessary energy?
I think so. I mean, it's almost impossible to go through this life unscathed,
Yeah.
and maybe you have trauma early in your life or a little bit later, but I feel that most people have gone through something that's definitely sticking with them and they need to release, even if it's not a terrible trauma, but maybe it's something that you just can't deal with your partner and they're bothering you and it irritates you, and just doing these movements or just like letting it out so you can be lighter, because we walk around with so much heaviness and it helps to release a lot of that, and I think that's really important.
I love that. And so can people, if they're like, yes, I need to do that, which I'm sure anyone listening can say, yes, I have to clean my vessel out. I have to get rid of energy that's no longer serving me. Is this something they do for a series of weeks or months, or how do people go about setting up or scheduling these types of practices? Is it a one and done, or is there usually a whole bundle?
It's something that you practice for a while, and people who are really skillful and have mastered this, have done this many years. And well, there's one piece of releasing energy, but there's also building up your chi life force. And so that this is very good for people to practice consistently who maybe just don't feel grounded, or they're not, that their brain's not clear, or they need to just really get strengthen the organs. So it's something that, consistency is really helpful. And to, even if you do a few minutes every day, but it is an ongoing practice if you really want to see the best results. But that being said, if you've never done this before and you're dealing with something and you want to see some kind of result, within a few weeks, if you're doing it consistently, you'll probably see some kind of shift. I know that I did.
I love that. I love that. And why do you think that this is not as prevalent as yoga or other practices? Like this, to me, you might be the third like practitioner that I know of. So, and that's not that many when you think about all the different people out there. But yes, yet, I have seven friends or more that are yoga teachers that live within 5 miles of me. So, why do you think this is sort of still under wraps?
So I was a yoga instructor for about 20 years, along with being a nutritionist. I did it for fun, but I worked in like every place in New York City. Honestly, I taught classes, I taught Ashtanga yoga, I taught everything, and it you became very popularized, especially the form that I did called Ashtanga, which is a very physical form of yoga. It was actually made for 12-year-old boys in India to calm their racing minds and help them
Mhm.
calm down and move into a more meditative state. But what happened is we had people like Madonna 25 years ago, Gwyneth Paltrow, who were in like the whole fashion world, who popularized it. And then it became a bunch of women wearing Lululemon and aloe yoga. And that's what yoga, it became very westernized. And yes, there are other people who are doing it in different ways, but it became so mainstream. The PR that's being done around Tai Chi and Qigong is seniors practicing in a park. And that is so silly, because if they knew how good it was for you, it wouldn't have that. So I don't think there's a right ambassadors, but it's not because of lack of efficiency. It's just not being promoted in the right way.
That is so helpful. I mean, that is amazing. I would like to definitely sign up and do some more, even if it's online. If can I do it online or do I have to be in person?
It's usually good to start in person, but let's say you can't. I have a website with a community called Soul Hacker, where I actually show the Daily Soul series, which are the series of videos that help me through my healing when I was not well at all. And unfortunately, the yoga wasn't doing much for me. Maybe because my nervous system was so used to doing yoga and moving that way that it wasn't like it needed a shift. But I had been doing yoga forever. And it just, you think about breath and mindfulness, and yoga incorporates all those things, but I was not healing with it. So I showed a lot of the different practices that I use to help with myself. I'm not a teacher, but I'm with my teacher in the videos doing what he showed me.
I saw that on your website.
Yeah,
It's so
but people but
beautiful.
people can do it online, and they can go to a studio. I mean, I think anything is best in person, but listen, if the weather permits, if your schedule permits, if you have kids in the house, if you have just, you know, something is better than nothing.
Absolutely. And I brought you here because I love that you are a functional, you do functional nutrition and you are a chronic illness coach.
Mhm.
And my first question to you was like, how did you heal yourself? Because I can only anticipate that you've had to do that work from the inside out. And you shared with me that, things that happened decades ago. So, do you want to share a little glimpse of your journey and how you've really evolved into this just the energy, I want to say the way that you use energy to heal others?
Right. So a lot of people get into healing work because they've had some sort of healing crisis of their own. It wasn't actually my story initially. It was because my mother was very sick with cancer as a little girl. So I watched her using a macrobiotic diet. I started to meditate when I was 11. And she left me some really amazing books: Caroline Myss, Bernie Siegel, Louise Hay, people who were really pioneers in the whole mind body connection. And I grew up reading those books and thought, I don't want to see people suffer so young like her or anybody. Let me move into functional medicine. And I started working in functional medicine practice in my 20s. And as I was working, the first thing that happened to me is I ended up getting thyroid cancer, which was something that I just didn't expect with my healthy lifestyle. It was a picture of health. And I ended up recovering, thank God. And I went traditional. I did get surgery and radiation, but I maintained a very good diet for autoimmunity and thyroid health. So I think that helped me to continue to feel well. But the next time when I got Lyme disease, that's when I was bit by a tick, I guess, in 2017, 2018. And I started having very, very strong neurological issues, fatigue, and I really had to tap into the mindfulness again, along with the diet and taking care of myself through different alternative therapies. And it wasn't as hard till round 3. So I actually came out of it. And then I got COVID. Uh, I guess after I pretty much was on remission from my Lyme, I ended up getting a very mild case of COVID. But in the beginning, when it was still the Delta variant, and it was like Lyme on steroids. I was having major tachycardia, rapid heartbeat, fainting spells. My vision was blurred. I had light sensitivity. Like, I was not functional, and super chronic fatigue. And I was worked in one of the best functional medicine clinics in New York City. Like, that's where everyone goes after they've seen 15 doctors and they can't get helped. And that's where I was. And I was like, okay, I'm retracing my steps from everything I did with the Lyme. Why is it not working? And after, trying all the biohacking and 100 hyperbaric oxygen sessions and 100 acupuncture sessions and neurofeedback, biofeedback, IV immunoglobulin therapy, which is taking like human plasma and injecting it into yourself. Like I did everything. And I'm like, okay, there's probably a spiritual reason for this. There's probably an emotional reason. And also I need to shift. So I was like, nothing's working. None of these treatments are working. And I got very heavy into my visualization. Like if you look at people like Joe Dispenza and you think about how someone like him basically was able to rebuild his bones after being told he couldn't walk again and had basically a remission of his symptoms and within a very short period of time. So I started visualizing myself every day doing kung fu, and it was like not that I knew how to do kung fu yet. I actually practice Wing Chun kung fu now, in addition to Tai Chi and Qigong, which is an external martial art that's very physical. But I was like in bed practically, so I would just sit in bed and watch myself fighting. But like, and I thought if I can be strong enough to be able to do these types of movements with clarity and strength, I'm already healed. But then I come out of my meditation and I'm like, how am I going to actually do this kind of practice because I have no strength? So I started off with Tai Chi and Qigong because Tai Chi is actually Kung Fu. It's just an internal form. So that is how I moved into this. And I can continue. I'll let you know how it moved. Yeah.
I love this. I love this because I do think a lot of people think they can heal just one way or another. And it's like you were tested at every level, right? So first the cancer, then the Lyme, and then the long-term COVID. And you tried to apply what worked last time, but each time it was like peeling away the next layer of your self-discovery.
It's always so frustrating because it's frustrating and good, but like everything that I've ever taught to my clients, like there's what you learn in school and then there's real life and it's the school of life. And every time I'm really, I really understand them. I'm like, God, because I've been through it and I've, recovered from it. And I keep saying, okay, God, like next time, just, please just like, don't make me have to go through it to have to explain this to people anymore. Like, just tap me on the shoulder, like gently. I don't want to deal with that again. But yes, I have been through so much of this and through trial and error of learning things. And, Tai Chi and Qigong were a big part of it. I'm not saying nutrition did not play a role and gut health played a role. So it's kind of like there's so many pieces. Everyone with a chronic condition always wants to know, like, what was the thing that you did? I've been to 15 doctors, nothing works. Like, what was that thing? It is like a complete, 180 of just shifting everything you think, like just have an open mind and just maybe like throw out old beliefs out the window. You don't know everything. I thought I knew everything because I'm like, I work in the best places. I've worked with, 22 years in clinical practice working with the top people. And I, had a thought like, I know it all. I didn't know it all. And I really got humbled very quickly. So you have to be open to taking in new information and seeing things with a new set of eyes.
I think God has big plans for you. I feel it. And I feel like you have to go through each of these steps to really awaken at a level that can help the masses. So I'm super honored you're here and sharing your story.
And also,
I,
I know that you're very, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Also, energetically, a lot of the quantum work too, and really seeing yourself and your future self and the fifth dimension. I did a lot of that work. I mean, that is like a constant practice of mine, and that just the visualization is just tremendous. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, for anyone listening, it is huge. You have to believe you're going to get well. You have to believe it.
I believe that. I believe that you are so much more powerful than you realize. But I do think that there are strategies, there's ancient wisdom,
Yes.
there's, advanced medicine, new age medicine, traditional medicine, and then also, medicine that we've carried through the centuries. And so if we could go back to Qigong, and talk about, so when you said it's like acupuncture from the inside out, like what is it exactly? Is it chanting? Is it visualization with a flow of energy? What is it exactly?
So When you say chanting, it's similar because the when you're doing qigong for certain organs, you have sound. So it's so similar to like a chant. It also activates the vagus nerve, even though they don't talk about that. But I started talking to my teacher, like this seems like vagus nerve stimulation, how we're, doing these type of sounds. So for example, if you're working on the liver, you're doing like a punch, but you're shh, and you're looking with your eyes and you're breathing through your eyes. So you're very focused with the way that you're doing each movement. So there's sound, there's breath, and there's movement. So like internal acupuncture, acupuncture is all about moving the chi, the energy. So if there's blockage, that's where there's a lot of disease, or you don't have balance, or you're stuck in one area, the energy is not flowing and stagnant. So it's destagnating, I guess, if I would say, doing the qigong. But it's also very rooting, and that's something that a lot of people do not have. Especially I've seen who deal with, maybe they could have something chronic where they feel like, maybe they're chronic fatigue or their brain issue, or maybe they have ADHD, when they're not rooted. It is so grounding doing this type of practices. And I think that's what we really need. So not only do I do Qigong, but if the weather permits, I mean, I'm in Miami right now. I'm in New York for the winter, so it's a little harder. I actually use a grounding mat when I practice, but I will actually do the Qigong outside in the grass, barefoot, obviously. Or when I'm in Miami, I go to the beach at sunset most nights, and I do the practice in the sand. And it's so clearing for your head, and you just really feel everything moving. So it's yeah, because acupuncture does similar. It's moving the energy, it's moving the chi.
It is. And I do acupuncture and I love it. And I am not in Miami, as you can tell. I have a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
snowstorm behind me. I'm up on Lake Erie at a future
Beautiful.
wellness center.
Yeah.
And but I also get acupuncture. But you know what I like about this is that you have to lead it, like teacher or not, but it's happening through you, with you, where I
Yes.
feel like acupuncture happens to you sometimes.
Yes. And you have control. And that's like, I know in the biohacking community, there's many things people might do. Let's say red light therapy, or they do a
Yeah.
cold plunge, or do this or that. It's great, but it's not something that you're not activating your own body. It's being done to you. So to have control and be able to move in such a way that you're doing your own self healing, it's you're really playing with energy. Even with Tai Chi, there's so much, the energy centers, the dantian. We have like lower dantian, middle dantian, and then you have also the upper dantian, it's like the third eye. So you're like activating, and you're moving the energy and the movements. You're like, actually, you have an energy ball, and you're like moving it around, or you're tapping in certain places to activate. It's like all these energy centers, you're waking up.
This. I love this. I could talk to you for hours. I just feel like it's so helpful because, you just bring a whole different spin to what I've heard before. And I think for people that have chronic illness or have tried a lot of options, being with somebody that has had to do the work in a way that has really pulled you from the inside out, like really kind of pulled the energy through you up into and back into the universe, is so validating on so many levels because there were probably times where you're like, how am I ever going to heal? And I think a lot of people feel that way.
I mean, I felt so bad. And I mean, I hate to even say this, but like, I felt so sick, and I was doing so many treatments. And I said, when a dog or an animal goes through such suffering, they put them down. Like, I was like, why do I have to live like this? This came out of my mouth, and I never was a depressed person. My mother passed away. I was orphaned as a child. Like, I had crazy stuff go on in my life, totally resilient. Like, people were like, how are you so normal? I just could handle things. But when it came to my health and not being well, I was like, this is not the body I'm supposed to be in. This is no, I'll take another incarnation. I don't want to live like this as me. I don't want to live like this. I refuse. I'm getting out of this, or I don't want to be on this earth. And this was really what, gave me back my power. And and it took some time. It wasn't like overnight that, I did some sessions. I found a teacher, and I was too uncomfortable to even go into a class because that's how weak I was. I felt like I couldn't even practice with a bunch of seniors as an ex-yoga teacher who's very flexible and coordinated. And I was like, mm-mm. And I practiced with him privately, and we spent a lot of time together. And he helped me so much. And within a period of time, going back to my kung fu reference, where I do these, kung fu moves and my Bruce Lee stuff, like in my visualizations, I always wanted to learn how to do that type of fighting. And he said, I think you're strong enough. Like I was afraid of post exertional malaise of like burning out. And he said, I think you can start practicing Wing Chun, which was the practice that Bruce Lee did. I'm like, are you serious? And I remember going to the studio and telling this teacher like this whole story about how I had chronic illness and blah, 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 blah. And like, if I pass out, like, no problem. I'm back in Florida. I was in New York last week. And I went to Wednesday night. I did 3 classes in one night. I did a regular class, a striking class, and then I also did a sparring class. And I passed my third exam, and it was all guys, and yeah, and I'm like in my 40s, first starting this, fighting a bunch of guys who were younger than me, and
Yeah.
I'm like, how did this happen? So yeah, I really think that it made a tremendous
Mm.
difference. Yeah.
Well, it's amazing knowing you. I'd love to know what you have on the horizon and how people can connect with you. All your links are below. I think checking out your website and your teacher, which you are so sweet to post the two of you. It's really beautiful. But
Yeah.
I just feel like God has huge plans for you, and I'm super honored to have met you now. So
I'm
tell
glad.
us a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us what's on the horizon for you or how people can work with you.
I mean, right now, my new site, Soul Hacker, is a community where I want to bring people together who are either struggling with something or just want to improve their health. And truthfully, it's kind of like a work in progress of all this time of going through everything and coming full circle. And I just really want to serve in the world. And it's maybe not any huge plans. I know things will come up, but yeah, I want to be able to help people and share with them that you can heal.
That is fabulous. Well, I will be sure to share your story with my community, with your links, and I hope we continue to connect either in person or
Yeah,
online
love
because I
that.
really am honored to know you.
I feel the same. Thank you so much.
Mhm. So exciting. And for those of you that feel that you've tried all the options or you're not sure where to turn, I hope these stories are inspiring to you. I encourage you to follow Danielle, to reach out to her, and even start some of the practices she was recommending. I feel like there's always an alternative, there's always another door. And I love having these conversations because it just reassures us that we are not alone. So, with that, we're signing off. Thank you so much, Danielle, and I look forward to seeing you here again.
Thank you. Same here.
Thank you.